Well, good evening and blessings to each of you. Yes. So, invitation for you all to join us February 7th through the 9th for our next online meditation retreat. I hope you can come. And also an invitation for folks who are new to the Sangha to come and join our Fully Human, Fully Divine Sangha Facebook page. And there you'll see that there's lots of student-led groups, and these are wonderful groups and places to connect and to practice together and meet new friends and community. And so I hope you can be part of that this year. Yeah. Okay. I feel like I had a third announcement. Let me see if I can pull it up. I don't know what the third one is, but let's do this. Let's do this. So let's shut down our eyes and let's send some love to Los Angeles, sending some love to the firefighters there and all the people who are suffering and struggling, who've lost homes and lost their business or place of work and are struggling with smoke and just all the difficulty of natural disasters. And so we're inviting love to flow the west coast of California there, and may some rains come, may the wind stop, may a million angels, a million angels descend upon Los Angeles and offer a blessing to the city and ending to the fires, ending to the chaos and the confusion, ending to the smoke, ending to the rain, to the wind, and a beginning of some rain. Let's invite some rain, some water, some relief, and some healing. Of course, great energies of hope and compassion, support and strength, soothing energies of peace, kindness, and divine mercy. All these wondrous energies descend to the Los Angeles area, blessing all those struggling, and especially blessing the firefighters, those who have experienced great loss. May all beings there have a home, have good food, and good water. May all beings be taken care of. So let's invite our prayer to extend into our hearts, our homes, our communities, finding great love and healing. And so much love to flow into us that there's extra that we have to share with this beautiful world. And of course, we invite there to be an end to the wars and the violence here on planet Earth, especially those in the Middle East and Israel, Palestine, Gaza, Syria. May there be an end, peaceful solution. Let us invite an end and a peaceful solution in Ukraine and Russia and North Korea. May there be healing all throughout planet Earth. All throughout planet Earth. And so coming back to ourselves here, I invite you just to see as you feel around inside. where there's anything within your body that is tight or tense or stuck or congested, contracted. And again, inviting great love and healing, inviting support, inviting truth. And acknowledging that sometimes we humans deceive ourselves. Sometimes we confuse ourselves with ideology or limiting beliefs or someone else's ideology or propaganda or confusion, projections. Sometimes we carry our father, our mother's pain with us. And in this new year, let us drop that pain. Let us find an emptying and a release the projections of the past and the weight that we've carried from the past. Inviting an unraveling. The ways we have been confused, the ways we've deceived ourselves. And in its place, let us invite peace and truth and an expanding consciousness. A consciousness that is open and empty, so the highest light can shine through us. Can shine through us. And so I welcome you all. Welcome you all to Satsang. I welcome you into this space. And if you like, you can open your eyes. And I welcome you into this space. You see, I'm on Team America. I see some smiles in the room for those who are awake. And yeah, I have to smile sometimes. I have to smile sometimes at this silly world that we live in. This silly world. And I went out the other day. I just told Kyle the story, so I'll tell you all it. But I went out the other day, just to the supermarket. It's kind of late night, and I like to go to the supermarket sometimes late night because that's when all the freaks are out, and I'm one of them. So just nobody get offended. Nobody get offended. But I went out, and I happened to have my American flag bandana on, and I don't know where it came from. I think it came from we have a big Halloween costume bin at my house, and sometimes we play around with costumes, and I busted it out. My little girl started screaming at me that I'm not allowed to wear this. And I'm like, oh, no one's going to tell me what to do. So I put this thing on and I went out to the store and I was rocking this as I was walking around shopping for my organic vegetables. And when I was out, all kinds of people were staring at me. And they had real big wide eyes and they were looking at me and they saw me coming. They were like, who's this crazy guy coming? I'm going to get out of his way. And people kept lighting up, really looking at me and smiling at me. And I had forgotten that I had this thing on my head. And I was like, man, look at all these people. Everyone's so awake and they're with me here at the store. And I was really excited to have everyone with me. Because a lot of times you go to the store and everyone's kind of asleep or they're trying to push and get around you and go fast. And they're rushing, home from work and this and that. Well, sometimes I like to dress up like a nut and go out and walk around town and just see if people are alive. And they were. They were. And they made me smile. They made me smile. I made them smile. And then at some point, my wife called me and, we were talking about a pineapple and I couldn't figure out which kind of pineapple to get. And she's a Hawaiian, so she knows about these things. And so I said, oh, we better FaceTime. And so I started to FaceTime, and I looked at myself and I was like, oh, that's why everyone's staring at me, because I have my American flag bandana on, and they're watching out. They're watching out for the wild character, running through the supermarket. So anyways, I thought I'd make y'all smile and see if you're awake with me tonight. See if you're awake with me this moment. So earlier today, Kyle came over and we were having a little talk, and he asked me this question. He said, Craig, how do you blend psychology and spirituality? And I looked at him, I kind of laughed because, I thought, well, in my line of work, I don't see a division. I don't see a division. And most people, they live with all kinds of divisions. And throughout my life, I've had trouble with division. I'm a person who had to learn how to make boundaries. A lot of people have to learn how to let go of boundaries. But in my view, in my orientation, well, God is everywhere. God is in everything. And so, with anything I'm doing, I'm going to invite God to be there first. With Satsang, God, will you be here with me? When I'm eating breakfast, oh Lord, will you be here with me? If I'm a good Buddhist, I'm paying attention in all moments to the spaciousness, the peace, the quietude, the vastness. And so all the time, my life revolves around this orientation. If we want to know God, well, we have to live a good life, and then we die, and then we go to heaven, then we get to know God. Well, that's one way. To me, that's a really slow, inefficient way. I say, God, no, you come here. You come here in my life, in my home, in my house, in my heart, in my food. I want to see you here in my child, in my dog. I want to see you in the sky. And I hope you all are going outside still, looking out, opening to the hugeness of God's beautiful creation. I went out tonight and I was looking at that moon. I was like, boy, you look like a full moon. And I see the beauty of God's face in the moon. So I hope you go out and you see the moon tonight. I looked on the calendar, it said tomorrow is supposed to be the full moon, but I think the full moon's normally a couple days. In my world, it's a couple days. But you go out and you connect with it. The other night I went out and I saw there was some kind of line. There was a couple planets lining up and maybe some big star and the moon. And so we're connecting to life. We invite God into every aspect of our life. And if we're a non-dual person, we notice the space, the peace, the radiance, which is here always. And so we start with this recognition that there's never a division. Never a division. Now, when I'm inviting God into my life, what I'm really doing is I'm inviting my unconscious parts to recognize that God is here, that grace is here, that love is here. Because God's already here. God's like, I'm here, you fool. Like, I'm here right now. You're the one who can't see me, but I'm here. I'm here. So God's already here. And I'm really just, when I say, God, I invite you into my life, I'm inviting the parts of me that can't see God, that don't know God, to wake up to God, to come to be in relationship with God. And this is where, the non-dual police, they always try to get me. They say, Craig, you don't really teach non-duality. You teach this, this other kind of spirituality, that you teach a dualistic framework. I say, no, I open and open and open to God until we become one with God. I open to peace and space until I know peace and space as my very nature. And of course, as a student of God's, let me see if I can say this a different way. As a student of evolutionary enlightenment, the teachings of Sri Aurobindo, I'm always inviting God into the unconscious aspects of my being and inviting the unconscious aspects of my being into the light. Into the light. And so Kyle brings forth this beautiful question of, well, how do we integrate? We do this by welcoming the divine to every aspect of our being. Every aspect. And so sometimes, like for some of us in the group who are awakening, and we're awakening in the hara, we might be opening up to God, but there's also this human experience of fear. I say, okay, fear, like I have this human part of me that's in fear, and I invite this fear into the light. I invite this fear into the safe bosom of the Divine Mother's presence. I want this fear to be held. I love this word bosom, like I'm a Shakespearean guy, to be held in the bosom of God, to be held in the heart of God, to be embraced by God. And so I invite my fear forward. Whereas our egoic identity, if it has fear or something uncomfortable, it tends to push these things away. It's to push them away. But with any realm of integration, we're inviting the darkness into the light, the shadow into the light, the unconscious parts into the light. And so I hope you will join me in this dance with the divine. All of creation, really struggles at various moments on the path. It's like when I look at these fires in Los Angeles, I look at them like, oh my gosh, such destruction. I always look up at God and say, like, what's going on here? Sometimes I say, God, what are you doing? What are you doing to us here on planet Earth? And it's just a difficult world. I know I say this every week, but it's a difficult world. Now, some of us, we're at a different stage on the path. We're at a stage where we're just opening, and maybe we got a little house, and we hang out in the woods, and we're just opening to light and love. And it's like, oh, what are those people talking about difficulty? You just open to peace, and all is good. All is good. And we'll have times like that, where everything is good on the path. But in this world, this earthly plane, this plane is a school. And it's a school where we are challenged by darkness. We're challenged by unconscious forces. We're challenged by, of course, evolution, to grow and to evolve into something greater. And some people frame this as a war, good against evil. And I have a really hard time getting into that, like this war of good against evil. But some people, that's their outlook. And it's like, okay, whatever. They can work with that. They want to have this fight, good against evil. But all of us, we all have our next step on the path. And whether we call that a war with darkness or war with the devil, or if we, I think it's much healthier to look at it. This is an evolutionary world, a world where we are challenged to grow, challenged to choose love. And I can tell you, I just had one of the most challenging couple weeks of my life. Now, it wasn't terrible, but it was certainly challenging. It was certainly challenging, because my little girl got hurt and she broke a couple bones and then had to have surgery, and we just had to really be taking care of her. It's been a really challenging time. And so as I've been challenged this whole, number of weeks now, I'm continually inviting God, inviting grace, inviting love, inviting strength into myself, to my family, into my daughter, into her leg, into her bones, inviting angels to come forward and to help and to support. I've tried many times to walk the path alone. And what I find is anytime I try to walk the path alone, my heart, will feel lonely. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, but sometimes people don't realize that. The more we try to be independent and just do it alone, the more we're going to suffer and we'll feel separate. And I ran into, I'm always running into people. I live in this little town and I know so many people. It's hard for me to get around this town without running into someone I know. But, I was out in the woods and, I ran into an old friend and he was really suffering. One of the reasons he was suffering so much is because he was locked into his ideology, his righteousness and hubris and angst. And, this fella, he's also a spiritual teacher. He's also a spiritual teacher. I guess I'd call him a colleague. He was more like just a friend to me, an old friend. And we all come into this at time to time on the path where we get locked into our mind. We get locked into our thoughts. We get locked into a worldview. And for most of us, we don't invite God into our mind. We say, no, I want to keep my thoughts. I want to keep my ideology. I want to keep my political orientation. I want to keep my view that I am separate. And there's something about the ego, and it almost gets off. Like it gets off on being separate, on having its own thoughts. And I'm going to invite us all just to take a moment and to close our eyes. And I want you to see if you can find how this is true in you. Like which thoughts in you create a bunker around them. A bunker, a guarded underground layer that doesn't let the truth, that doesn't let God penetrate. And I don't want us to judge this aspect of ourselves, but I want us all just to take a look and see if you can find specifically what is it in you? What is it in you that's living behind a bunker? So let's all just find that place. So if you have, sometimes it's limiting beliefs, feelings of unworthiness, something our father said to us when we were a child, or a mother, an older brother. Maybe it's a political orientation, maybe some kind of spiritual viewpoint. If I have to walk this path by myself. Sometimes we have a spirituality that tells us we need to be impoverished, or we need to be celibate, or for some of us, we're entrenched in shame or guilt or embarrassment. And I invite you just to feel around inside and see, like, what is this thing? And I invite you to look at it new and fresh for the first time. Like, we're going to turn on the light in that bunker. And I want you to see if you can see something new about this psychological structure. Like, what is this really about? What is this thing really about? What is it really about? And anytime we have something entrenched within us, something that's kind of buried or really guarded, there's probably going to be an element of fear. And so I want you to see, just from a place of compassion, you can see that somehow this ideology, this kind of thought structure, this belief system, can you see that somehow it's rooted in fear? Sometimes a fear that I don't belong, or I'm not right, or the world's not right, the world's not safe. Something. You feel into it yourself. We're coming to understand like what this bunker is about. And so we're asking it to communicate with us. And so we're inquiring, we're curious, we're saying, hey, you tell me, what is this about? As we breathe, as we feel, as we open, now we can ask this aspect of ourself if it's ready to come into the light. If it wants to open into something greater. You can even ask it, well, what do you need? How can I support you? So that whatever this limiting thing is can become unlimited. So it can become released. So it can be liberated. And so let us invite some healing grace, some luminous and radiant light to flow into this bunker and to begin to, well, let's just say, pulverize the concrete walls, the concrete chamber. We're inviting this light to excavate the unconscious, to bring it into the light, to be healed, to be integrated, to be uplifted. To be healed, to be integrated, to be uplifted. And so we'll take a couple more deep breaths, just breathing and feeling and softening. And so when you're ready, you can again open your eyes, and you can have a little fun here at Satsang, opening and closing our eyes, and just playing with this intersection of being awake and then this intersection of our human self. That can get unconscious, that can get stuck. And I'm going to invite you all, just to share in the chat, to engage with me a little bit here, about your experience. And so you can tell me, well, what was in your bunker? What made up the bunker? What were the limiting belief systems? What you learned from this aspect to yourself. Because the beautiful thing about our unconscious is our unconscious, excuse me, isn't bad. It's not wrong. It's not dirty. Buried within the unconscious, well, are great spiritual gifts. Great gifts. Great aspects of our power. Aspects of our heart. Aspects of our strength and compassionate nature. Within my unconscious, I've really struggle when really difficult things happen to my children. It's like it's a really hard thing for me because, I have this belief in my role as a father. And I have this belief that I'm supposed to protect my children in every moment. And you see in that belief, like, wow, it's an impossible task. And so sometimes in our unconscious, we have these impossible beliefs that we hold on to. Like the world should be fair. and there's nothing wrong with that belief, except for the fact that it's just not true. The world isn't fair in a relative sense, not a big picture sense. Like if we really saw how life worked in God's master plan, we see, oh yeah, life is fair. It's a world of growth, and we all get a fair chance at growing. We all, God has some math that we don't understand, but it's a math that does make things fair. But we don't understand it from our human mind. And so, of course, I'm as a father, I continue to run against this. Anytime one of my children get hurt, or if I turn on the news and I see this war in Ukraine, and sometimes on YouTube, I don't know what it is about YouTube, but YouTube wants to show me real life trench warfare with Ukrainian soldiers and Russian soldiers. And it's crazy. I don't want to see it, but it keeps popping up in my feed. And you see these poor fellas in the trenches fighting. And whether it's a Russian or a Ukrainian or I saw these guys, what are they, the French Foreign Legion, or now, these North Korean soldiers. I mean, these North Korean soldiers, they don't want to be there. They don't want to fight. They have no idea who the hell the Ukrainians are. They have no idea who the Russians are. But God is inviting it all into the light. Inviting it all into the light. All into the light. But I'll turn on the news and I see this great suffering. I look at God sometimes, I say, this isn't fair. This isn't right. And God has to correct me and say, this is the world. This is how the world is. This is a world of growth and a world of evolution where humanity, for some reason, humanity's such slow learners here on planet Earth. We think we still all need to kill each other. It's like, can we invite light into this idea that we need to kill each other? that it has to be my nation against your nation, America versus Russia, America versus the Chinese, America versus the North Koreans. It's like, what is this? What is this old tribalism, this nationalism? Can we find a new way to live? A new way to live without war and violence, without destroying our beautiful planet. And so when we look inside into our unconscious, we see that it is full of all these beliefs. And sometimes it's a human belief. That's not bad. It's not wrong, but it's not true. It's not true. Like my belief that I can protect my children in every moment. I've awoken every night for a number of weeks at some point in the middle of the night. And I wake up with this thought of coulda, woulda, shoulda. Like if I coulda, if I should have done something different to protect my daughter from breaking her leg. And, maybe there's some super egoic truth there that I could have done something different. Of course I could have. I could have stayed home and stayed safe, like Anthony Fauci taught me a couple of years ago, just to stay home and stay safe. But I have trouble with that. My daughter has trouble with that. We are these beings of light. We're meant to be out in the world connecting with each other. And so sometimes we have little bits of guilt within us, little bits of shame, little bits of coulda, woulda, shoulda, trying to protect ourselves or our family from being hurt. And the beautiful thing about this world is when we try to hold on to absolutes, we'll fail. We'll fail. We'll fail. It's one of the ways God humbles us. So let's hear some of the things you all have said. And if anyone has a question or something they want to share, please bring it forward. And come on now, I want some more interaction here. Lauren has shared, but I want some others here. Sometimes we get in these spiritual groups, we sit back and we space out a little bit. Okay, let's see what Lauren said. I have this lean towards giving and a resistance towards receiving. Yeah, this is one of the great spiritual shadows. Is one of the energies of the do-gooder. But spiritual people in general tend to live by these lofty ideologies of I'm supposed to give, and I'm supposed to forget about myself. Of course, that's a shadow of Christianity. Okay, on the surface, it feels like a desire to do good, but underneath it is unworthiness and a fear of losing power by being indebted. Yeah, let me feel into this. On the surface, it feels like a desire to do good, but underneath it is unworthiness and a fear of losing power by being indebted. Yeah, so Lauren, we're talking here about if I receive love from another, then I'll be indebted to them. If I receive support from another, I'll be indebted to them. And I invite you just to take this thought and find the nearest garbage can, throw it in the garbage can. If you got a window, you can throw it out the window and say, you don't need to be indebted to anyone, my dear. Here on planet Earth, we have to learn to give and we have to learn how to receive. Have to learn how to receive. I had the same thing. My teacher had to break it out of me. Now, I didn't have this thought about fear of being indebted. I think I just had a shyness about me where I didn't like any attention. I didn't like anyone looking at me. And I had like a strong sense of I can just do it all by myself. It's like, and I can do a lot by myself. Like I do really good on my own. I do great on my own. But, it's not my truth to be on my own forever. I want to be able to be on my own fully, but I also want to be able to be with people fully. And here on planet Earth, we have to learn to give and to receive. And in the olden days, like one of the beautiful things about tribal society is everyone had a role and everyone was always giving and everyone was always receiving. And that's one of the great beauties in a tribal society is like we're all in this together. They didn't have to say that. They didn't have to make a mantra about it. They all knew it, that we're all in this together. And I was watching this thing earlier today. It was a horrific thing. Um, it was children, I think it was Nigeria's where it was, who were just like really suffering with famine. And these kids were straight eating clay. Like they found a way because like it was just, they had no food, none, zilch, nothing. And this was during COVID. And during COVID, all these tribes, and tribal people in the villages were told everyone stay home and stay safe. No one go visit tribes. And then, all these tribal groups, these villages, well, they didn't get any food delivered. They ran out of food very quickly. They had nothing to eat. And they had to, this is so terrible. It's heartbreak. They found some kind of clay that they could eat that would just like barely sustain their body. And so we saw these poor little children who were like starving to death, eating like clay mixed with like some grass or something. And it was like, oh my God, it was just heartbreaking, heartbreaking. But here, Lorna, on planet Earth, if we only give and don't know how to receive, well, we will find ourselves. We'll find ourselves. I'll say this. We'll find ourselves worn out and exhausted and tired and lonely and fatigued. And our heart will feel as if it's starving. And so we can't live in this way. We can't live in this way. And I've told this story too many times. You have to forgive me. But like when I was with my teacher, I would go to his house and every day I was a skinny, scrappy vegan. I'd show up on the job with a gallon of water and a dry peanut butter sandwich. And I'd have a peanut butter sandwich, a gallon of water, and a carrot. He would come out and he'd look at me in my lunch and he'd be like, what are you eating? Like, what's this? And then he'd go inside and he'd come back 15 minutes later and he made me like a big taco or a burrito or something, a whole plate of food and a big, glass of water. And he'd say, here, take this. I say, no, 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 no. I already have a lunch. And he's like, that's not food. He's like, that's going to catch up with you one day, Craig, because you're so malnourished. And I can remember even one day I was sitting there leaning up against the house and it was a hot summer day. And I looked down into my plastic water jug and there was just a bunch of mold floating in it, because it's like I just keep filling it up every day. Wasn't, washing it out, again, because I was 18 years old and, I was a little bit of an imbecile, and so, my teacher, he taught me, Greg, you need to receive some food. I had friends that had to teach me, you need to receive a bed, Craig. You can't just sleep on the floor. Because I was as such a monk, I was such an ascetic. It was terrible. But and my teacher, he would make me lunch, and his wife, sometimes his wife would make, him and me lunch, and And they'd serve me like a king, for that short period of time. And then, I'd spend the rest of the day working for my teacher. And so then I would be the servant. And then there'd be times when he was the servant. And so he'd teach me to receive. He put all this food before me. He's like, you have to eat this, you skinny, emaciated vegan. He's like, you have to eat this food. You have to eat, you have to receive. And some of us, we get stuck, and being, no, I'm going to do it all by myself. Or so that's righteousness, or there's that feeling like Lauren wrote of like unworthiness. And with unworthiness, it's almost like it's like painful for people to see us. It's painful to have any attention. Now, the funny thing is like when my teacher would be feeding me, when he'd be showering me with grace, like I was squirming inside. I felt uneasy. If I was a high school girl or middle school girl, I would say, I'd feel so awkward with all this attention on me. And it was very uncomfortable, to have someone waiting on me. Very uncomfortable, especially by spiritual teacher. Like he was this great being, this master soul, and have him wait on me. Like he would make a bed for me. Because I just sleep on the floor, just like with a sleeping bag or whatever, or maybe just a little cloth. And he was like, this is not going to do, son. Like, this is not the way to live. And he'd be like, I'm going to make you a proper bed. And he'd, tell me to step aside and he'd show me how to do it. Like, Craig, this is a bed. This is comfort. Your body needs comfort. It needs care. And I would just be squirming. I just wanted him to hurry up and be done with it. But many of us on the path, we have to learn how to receive. We have to learn how to receive love. Our heart will literally be halfway closed if we only give, but we don't know how to receive. And my God, if we pray, and if we're in this spiritual path, this lineage where we open to grace, like we need to get comfortable being like a big, open, receptive bowl and receiving light and receiving love. Now, I heard this funny thing, and it's about Taylor's group and Alex's group, that you guys are getting together. And when we get together in this way, what's the name of your guys' group, by the way? I want to get it right. Taylor, you write it in the chat for me. And whatever this group is, we get together and we receive our intuition. We don't really have an official name. We call it opening together. I'll work with that. Opening together. And so we open, and in the group, if you're feeling something, if you receive something from yourself, if you receive a movement and it's something that wants to be expressed, we express it, we share it. And this is something that, I've done a lot of this in the past, where you're in a group and whatever wants to come, you let it come and you let it be voiced, you let it be expressed. And so it's you are receiving from all of yourself, and whether it's an unconscious part or a divine part or some kind of thing that's within you that's just wanting to unravel, or something divine that's wanting to come forward and bust out in song or in dance or in kriya, we let it come and we let it flow. Now, I can say I had this funny thing just the other day. I was laying in bed And I was actually feeling a little bit sad and just overworked again, because we've had a lot of sleepless nights. Last night was the first night I slept in like 3 weeks, where I just laid down and slept. And, I woke up in the morning and I was just like, oh my gosh, I slept. I just slept through the night, and I wasn't having to be up and taking care of my daughter in the middle of the night and this and that. And it was just lovely. But I was laying in bed, and I was like, okay, here I am. And no, this wasn't this morning. This was a couple mornings ago. And just this thought came to me. And I don't even know what it was. It was just a vision of this little point on this hillside that's just, up in front of me here. And I just received a vision of it. And then it disappeared. And, later that day, I received this thought, hey, let's go on a hike. So I went on a hike. I'm out in the woods there. And I looked, up to my right, and I saw this point. It's kind of like a little plateau, up on the mountain there. And it looked down at me and it said, come. And I was like, no, I just got a little bit of time. I got to get back. I got to get back, take care of my little girl. But, I was just walking. And then I heard this voice in me say, up the hill. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to listen. So I go up the hill. And then like 20 minutes later, I'm at this place where I had this vision earlier the day in the bed. And I was like, whose thought is this? Whose plan was this to get me up, up here on the mountaintop? Whose plan was it? Was this my thought? Was it the mountain? Was it God? And see, Lauren, as we work with receptivity, the more receptive you are, the more intuitive you become. Intuition really grows exponentially when you listen to it right away, when you act it out, when you go with it. But if we keep rejecting intuition, we keep rejecting ourself, when we don't let ourselves receive, and this was, I'm going to call it love. I'm receiving love from the mountain. The mountain was telling me, like, Craig, you need to come out. You need to, don't worry about your daughter right now. Just come hike for a little bit longer. Just come be with me a little bit longer. And something happened. I didn't even know what it was, but just being up on the mountain there, this big chunk of heaviness, from all this difficulty that I'd been through with my family, began to lift off me. And eventually, as I came down, I realized that it was this new attitude, new capacity of patience to be with my daughter. And, I'm already, really patient with her. But, when you're not sleeping and you've been worn out, for a long time, it's good to recharge. It's good to recharge. And so, Lauren, this is crucial to your spiritual path. Crucial that you open and you learn how to receive. Receive from within, receive from God, receive from others, receive from life, receive from the truth, receive from the Holy Spirit, receive from grace. We want to be receiving all the time. All the time. All the time. Okay. Let me look what else is here in the chat. Okay, Terry writes, feelings of inadequacy, not worthy, nor wise enough to be a teacher. Am I doing it right? I'm just a poser. That word poser is such a silly word for me. I've heard it my whole life because I grew up skateboarding, and Sometimes there was people who had skateboards but didn't skate, and I think they might have been the original poser. But uh, I just never got into the poser thing. There's some shame with that. I'm not awake enough. I have to keep plowing through these fears every day. They sit in the background repeating, and my body feels like it's processing those fears over and over. Good, good. Yeah. And I like to think of being a teacher in real simple terms. Real simple terms. Like all of us know something, and all of us could teach whatever we know to someone who doesn't know that thing. I like to think of teaching as I'm talking to myself yesterday. Like myself yesterday doesn't know the things that myself today does. So it's just me talking to me. There's no grand thing that I'm the teacher and someone else is a student. It's just me talking to me sharing in my life experience with another. And I used to have this real strict thing in me. And I was very fortunate on my path because my first spiritual teacher was a master being, an incredible teacher. So I was just really gifted with that. And so I just had this standard that I only want to talk to enlightened beings. And and I did that. I did that for a long time. But at one point, my enlightened teacher, he said, Craig, you can learn something from anybody. You can learn something from anybody. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. And so then I started to learn things from 18-year-old yoga teachers and 3-year-old little boys and little girls. And I learned things from a dog, and I learned something from the sky, and I'd learned something from someone who was old and grumpy, and I'd learned something from someone who was old and wise. And I'd learned, some things from my mistakes and from other people's mistakes. And all of us, Terry, have something to offer. But when we start to think of being a spiritual teacher as something big and serious, and I have to know everything, to me, that's a very dangerous recipe. Because some of my colleagues who live by that, they've lost great friends, they've lost family, and they suffer. They suffer from loneliness because they have tremendous arrogance. That I alone am the awakened one. And I'm just like, man, you alone are a DIC something, and it's like, it's not the right way. It's not the right way. All of us are teachers and all of us are students. I'm eternally learning, and I'm eternally failing, and I'm eternally growing. And there's nothing special about me. We all are. We all are. And somewhere we got this idea that a spiritual teacher is something special. Everything is something special in their own way. And Terry, if you have something to share, share it. But this whole idea of I think I know and I'm teaching to someone else, we just need to soften all that and just imagine I'm just talking to myself. Talking to myself. Like every day I learn from one of you all. Every day I learn from one of you all. Every day I learn from my little dog Bingo. He teaches me about sweetness and tenderness. And he teaches me just about exuberance and joy, the joy of being alive. He ran up to me this morning, and I was kind of walking, and he was running and jumping and biting at me, and I moved my knee in a way that just like clocked him real hard, and he just fell to the ground. And he bounced right up with a big smile on his face. It was just coming right back at me, saying, hey, I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be resentful. I'm not going to be angry. I'm going to love you right back. And I'm going to keep playing. I'm going to keep playing. Now, most of you all, if I kicked you in the jaw with my knee, you would be angry and resentful. And we'd have to go on a whole thing. We might have to do trauma therapy and this and that. But this little guy, he was just full of love, full of light. He bounced off the ground and jumped up and said, let's play more. Let's play more. And Terry, I want you to think of teaching as playing, as playing. I'm here to play in the realm of the spirit. And when I was a kid and I first saw the priests playing, with spiritual energies, I could remember I was sitting way up in the balcony. I was in this big church as a kid. I was probably in the 6th or 7th grade. And I saw these priests. They were just doing things, with the Eucharist and, the ceremony or whatever. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. When I grow up, I'm going to play with the light. Play with the light. But this whole idea of I know something and you don't, it's like, let's forget that. Let's forget that. And really soften and just say, like, I'm a person who likes to honor and speak about the spirit. To honor and speak about the spirit, and maybe soften that whole teaching thing, that teaching word. Okay. And all teachings, like, they don't really come from us. Like anything good, it comes from God. That's how to be a good teacher. We're humble, we're open, we're empty vessels. Empty vessels. Okay. Kyle writes, I think I can become embarrassed by what I find inside during shadow work. My response is sometimes just be clean, strong, and spiritual to these parts, which is harsh. Yeah, like that word clean, like often we look inside and we think that we are dirty, our unconscious is dirty. I want us all just to imagine, not only are we just big children, in adults' bodies, but our unconscious nature is just animal. It's animal nature. It's not bad. It's not wrong. It's not dirty. But we are inviting it to evolve. And we're not inviting it to evolve because it's wrong. We're inviting it to evolve because we want to have a full experience of our divinity, of our highest nature. Like our unconsciousness, like as it comes into the light, at first it's very uncomfortable, wants to squirm. But as that unconsciousness stays in the light, it becomes happy to evolve, happy to grow, happy to step into something new and greater. The unconsciousness gets liberated and it gets to wake up and realize that it is the light. And so when it's unconscious, it feels like it's just stuck old dead energy. But as it begins to awaken, it realizes, no, me too. I am the light. I am the light. And anything, everything within us, like the teaching in the beginning, everything within us, we welcome into the light. We welcome it all into the light. And as spiritual beings, well, this is our path. This is the way. Okay. Let's see if there's another one here. Yeah, Blair. I have a bunker within that is full of thoughts like the hell is going on. I think this, what the hell is going on? And what is this place? Yeah. And this is a common thing on planet Earth. It's like, if you look out at the world, it's easy to say, like, what the hell is going on here? And if you look down into your unconsciousness, you can say the same thing, like, what the hell is going on in here? Like, what is this place? This is a hell realm. This is a hell realm, and so many things within us are stuck in these really limited hell realms. But as we choose to open and invite the light to shine, we invite the hell realms to be liberated. And this is really like what this big, Buddhist tanka, behind me is it's about the hell realms being liberated, being brought into the land of Buddha nature, the land of freedom, the land of light, the land of love. Okay, good. Let's see, Taylor. Let's see. It's, Johan. Johan says, sometimes I feel guilty and unworthy of God's love because I think I'm not doing enough to serve humanity and God. I fall into judging myself harshly for not taking action because I'm afraid. Okay. Everyone, I want you just to bear with me just for a moment. So I'm going to be right back. Okay, forgive me. I'm back. But let's say that to this guy right here. Can everybody see this guy? Okay, I want to see a couple more smiles. Like, he is really cute. Yeah, why are you looking so serious, huh? Why are you looking so serious? Okay, so I got my little fella here. And what was it we just said just a moment ago? We said, I feel guilty and unworthy. So I want you to imagine this guy here, that he feels guilty and unworthy of God's love because he's not doing enough to serve humanity and God. And so he's going to judge himself harshly for not taking enough action. It's like, he's not going to do that. We are going to love him because he's part of God's creation, because he is a beautiful aspect of God's creation. We're going to love him fully and completely. Why are you looking so confused? Huh? You're looking at me like I'm crazy tonight. Are you coming in here? Okay, you come here. You say hi to everyone.
Hello.
And she's saying hi. Now look, did either of these two need to perform to serve God's creation in order to receive love? No. We're going to love them fully and completely, just as they are. All right. Okay. You get back here. You take bingo. Oh, one more. Oh. How about this guy? This guy creates a lot of trouble here. He's the troublemaker, Buster. Okay, come on. Okay, see you guys later, huh? Come on, get out of here. So if I looked at any of those three characters, my beautiful daughter, or Buster, who's a troublemaker, or Bingo, who's just like a little ham sandwich, it's like, I'm not going to look at them and say, hey, you need to serve God in order to be worthy of love. No, I'm going to look at them and I'm going to say, you are absolute beings of light. Always, already. And whether Buster's being a good dog or a bad dog, I'm going to love him. I'm going to love him. He doesn't have to perform. And this is one of the great teachings of Jesus, was that we are children of the divine. We're children of God. We are good from the beginning. I don't know who came up with original sin. I think it was Augustine. I think he got confused about that one. He got confused. He spent too long hanging out with the monks, And so that idea of original sin, or I need to perform, no, Johann. Guilty and unworthy of God's love. Johann, you are a creation, a manifestation of God's love right now, right now, right now. Now, sometimes we're born into a world and we have parents, and our parents, they don't know this truth. And so they teach us that we're something different, and that normally leads to unworthiness. It happened with me. It happens with many of us in the Sangha, that our parents teach us that you are something else. What my parents teach me? That you have to be working to receive love. But my little dog Bingo, I'm not going to say he has to go out and serve humanity in order to be worthy of God's love. No, his job is to be himself fully. My daughter, her job is to be herself fully. To be herself fully. She doesn't need to go out and serve the world. Now, Johann, you may enjoy serving. You may enjoy sharing. You may enjoy, being present with others. And that's a beautiful thing. I encourage you just to enjoy it. But we don't need to feel guilty that we're not doing enough. We need to start with this basic realization. Now I'll switch to what the Buddha taught, that we are innately good, innately divine. That our consciousness is a spiritual consciousness. Our body is a spiritual body. And so we're opening to this. We're welcoming this. And we're not taking a truth that we learned, probably from mom or dad or from society. We're not playing with this idea that we're unworthy or we're guilty or we need to perform. These are all human ideologies. And so we need to cast these out. And we need to stay with the truth that you are innately good. And the beautiful thing is when you know you're innately good, this kind of goes back to what I was sharing with Terry. When you know that you're innately good, you're happy to share your goodness and your divinity. No obligation in it. There's a happiness and a joy about sharing. I was happy to go get my little friend Bingo. He gave you guys a funny face. I think he gave a funny face. I know why he gave a funny face. Because he was really cuddled up, with my wife. And he was wondering, why the hell are you bringing me into this place here? Put me on this camera here. Why are you taking me here? I was comfortable. I was busy falling asleep. And so he was giving you all a face. But anyways, that these beings are good. My daughter's good. Bingo is good. Buster is good. And who else? Johann is good. Innately. You put your name in there. I am good. Innately. Innately. I am good. Now, by all means, if there's anything we need to clean up in our life, we clean it up. We do our work. We have our evolving edge. But that doesn't make us wrong or bad. God's not up there in heaven just waiting for us to be good. God loves us unconditionally. We are her creation. God doesn't have a small human mind that says, I love you after you perform. That's how Michael Jackson's father was. Like, I love you if you're dancing and performing on a stage. And so I need to go out there and sing and dance, son. And that messes us up when we have that type of thinking. When we take that on to be the truth, that messes up our psychological nature. Okay. Let's see. All right. Let's see if I missed any of them. Okay. Let me just look at one more place. So this is what I'm going to invite us all to end with. Again, I'm going to invite us to close our eyes. And I want you to find a place in your life which feels like it could use a little bit more God, a little bit more consciousness, a little bit more Buddha nature, peace. I want you to see if you can really locate it in your body. And so let's bring some awareness here. So it might be in the heart, might be in the belly, be down in the pelvis, might be in some split off aspect of the psychology, but I want you to see if you can go there and inhabit the unconscious part. Whatever it is. There's a lot of us speaking about unworthiness tonight. So if that's our thing, unworthiness, if it's angst, it's jealousy, envy, addiction, so we're stuck in a real mentality in our mind, whatever it is, any aspect that is limited, I want you to go into it. And I want you to embody it. And as you embody it, I want you to feel that contraction. But right from within the heart of that contraction, let us call forth the grace of the Divine Mother. And oh, Mother, will you come into me? Will you shine your light? More fully into this point of darkness, this point of unconsciousness. Will you come here? Will you flow down into me? And will you flood my unconscious nature with light? You flood this inner chamber of darkness with light, with love, with hope, with faith. And so we're breathing, we're feeling, we're opening. We're inviting this great love, this light, this descent of heavenly grace to come more fully into our lives. We're inviting our angels, our guides to be with us. We're inviting the land, the 10,000 Buddhas to awaken within us. May there be light, may there be clarity, may there be compassion, may there be peace, may there be love, may there be freedom. Through in and throughout this body. Then let us extend our prayer. May there be light. May there be love. May the truth triumph. May great compassion flood all of humanity and all of planet Earth. And so we bring our palms to our hearts, a deep bow of love to each of you, divine beings. So much love, so much respect. And so I'm going to invite you to play with this all the days of the week, not just during Satsang. We're inviting God, inviting grace into your body, into your unconscious, into your highest nature, your lowest nature, into your home, into your community, into this world. May all beings be free. May all beings be happy. May all beings be flooded with the highest love. Okay. So much love to each of you. Good night, everyone. See you soon.